So welcome to everyone who's here online. Anyone who's here online, and then we have a couple folks here in the library with us today. So just to note that, again, we'll share out the slides, we'll share out the recording after to anyone who's registered or who's attending. And please feel free to put any questions you may have in the chat. You can also unmute if you're online or just call out your question here in the room if you're with us live in the library. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Erin Wright. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a reference and instruction librarian here.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Katie Solomon. I am a librarian here as well, head of reference and instruction, she, her pronouns. Welcome.
We have our emails there. Feel free to contact us after. We'll also, again, share an email with the slides and everything. We would love to have a sense of who's in the room with us, whether virtually or in person. If you don't mind, if you're online, just sharing your program in chat. It'd be kind of fun to see what everyone is studying. And then we'll also just ask for anyone who wants to share in their room. It just helps us get a sense of what you are studying.
My name is Dupe. I'm a first year Master's in Information Systems student.
Fantastic. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Taylor, and I'm a third year PhD candidate in public policy.
And we're seeing, just to call out a couple things, chemical engineering second year. So far, different disciplines: public policy, information systems, chemical engineering, education, first year PhD. We have a third year doctoral student in gerontology, a biology student second year. So there's a nice mix right here. One thing we wanted to say is that we will be sharing some ideas about organizing and managing your research, but we also wanted to get a sense of what has worked for you, if you have any tips or strategies. So we will be sharing a link to a shared document that will be available to anyone who came to the workshop. So that can be happening as the workshop's going. Feel free to add anything as we go through. I'll share that in a second. Then Katie will be talking about some organization strategies. I will kind of talk about how they can apply or some tools you could use while you're searching. We'll touch base on a couple tools for data management and note-taking specifically. And then we will have some time at the end, 5-10 minutes to wrap up, to have questions and to share out that document again. So if you've added any resources on there, we'll be able to look at that towards the end of the workshop. Questions are welcome throughout. As I mentioned, the chat is a great place, or you can just call out your question, unmute, or share it in the room. So I did mention we do have this shared doc. So there is a QR code you can use with your phone, or we're going to pop the link into the chat. That's great. Thanks, Brianna. Brianna is by the way, the graduate services librarian and is online helping us. So thank you, Brianna. So feel free to visit that link. I'll open that right now as well. So kind of the question is, are there any organizing tips or tools that have worked for you that you would like to share? Feel free to put a link or the name of them.
Look at what it looks like.
Sorry, did anyone say anything? Okay, so feel free to put links to anything that you would like to share out with colleagues. I think it's a nice way because there's a lot of resources and limited time in one workshop. And so this is a way that we can actually crowdsource and kind of get some ideas from all of you. All right, so without further ado, we'll get started.
So why set up an organizational plan, or why kind of think about that in advance? Taking time to create an organizational plan early on in your process can help set you up for success. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated or require a lot of tools. It can really amount to making some decisions in advance and setting up a structure for how you'll save and organize your materials. It can save you a lot of unnecessary frustration because you'll be more able to locate what you've collected when you need it, avoid duplicating your effort, and work more seamlessly with your collaborators if you have any. and back up your results if that is required. So what could be included in an organizational plan? So this will probably vary depending on your project, but it can include things like search tools or databases that you anticipate you'll be using or you hope to use, as well as your search strings that you're using as you go through your research. This can be especially helpful for things like systematic reviews if you're working on that. You could include in your plan how you'll manage your citations, including if and what citation management tool you'll utilize, and how you take and maintain notes on your research and research materials, some ideas about what that might look like for you. What files you'll be saving and where, setting up a naming convention and version control for that can be helpful in advance. And potentially, especially for data, plans for long-term access and backing up your files.
I might have missed it, but what's the organizational plan for again?
So this is just kind of the big picture of getting yourself set up to do your research. So it's kind of just a label for your planning that you do before you start your research.
Oh, okay, okay.
So in terms of citation management tools, when you're deciding on what tool you might be using, it helps to consider a number of factors. Is something free or does it cost something? And what do you already have access to? So thinking about what through your organization, your university, your workplace, you might have access to. If you are working with collaborators, what do they have access to? What storage requirements you have? What are the limitations of the tools that you're considering? And can you work around that if there are limitations? Thinking about ease of use and what you're already familiar with. Sometimes that familiarity is worth it, even if there are some limitations to the tool, just so you can kind of dive in and start using it. Are there robust supports or possible training that's available? And we talked a little bit about what's available through the library, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And how the tool might integrate with the search tools that you're using, as well as the word processing programs that you're using. So how are you going to get those citations out of a database and into your citation management program? How are you going to use it with Microsoft Word or Google Doc or whatever you're writing with? Here at UMBC, the library provides training and support for 2 no-cost cloud-based tools, Zotero and EndNote Online, which is the web-based version of EndNote. These tools have very different interfaces, but fairly similar functionality. We'll share 2 links in chat, a table of comparisons of additional software to consider, as well as a link to our training recording. So that question came up earlier. We'll put a link in chat, and this will be in the slides as well for those of you who are in the room to get to that. Okay. So when you're saving files, it really benefits you to start off with a naming and file structure plan. Think about a file name as a unique identifier for each of your files. And following a naming convention allows you to simplify the organization of your files and locate your files more easily. It also helps others to understand and reuse your data if that's something that's going to happen. And so this is particularly important when you're working on collaborative projects and having conversation with your collaborators about this. The folder structure for your files can assist in the unique identification of the files contained within them. Consider the structure of the folders containing your data files before you begin to collect your data. Ideas for how to organize your folders include by type, time, characteristic, activity, or topic. And of course, keep your file name short and descriptive, be consistent, and avoid special characters within them. So we wanted to just mention one of our library databases that's unique in many ways compared to a lot of the databases that we have. It's called Sage Research Methods. This database helps researchers learn to design and conduct research with videos, case studies, practice data, and how-to guides. So rather than our typical library databases, which are used for finding sources, this is really educational content for learning how to do different types of research and research projects and helping develop your skills in those areas as graduate students. It includes a project planner tool, which is an interactive online tool that provides a step-by-step guide to the entire research process from defining a topic to disseminating your information. And Brianna has added that link to chat, and that will also be in the slides that we'll be distributing.
When you say it helps you plan your research, like how?
I think I would look at it, so this is a pretty new database for us, and so we're kind of discovering it along with students, I think, but when you're thinking about your project moving forward, it can help you set it up essentially and know what pieces you need to do and in what order and what all of those individual pieces will look like. I think that's how I would describe
Yeah.
it. Any thoughts to add to that?
I mean, when I was looking through it, it seemed like it just gives an overview of all the steps to maybe consider. It's pretty comprehensive, but it doesn't have everything. But it definitely was like, oh, yes, that is an aspect maybe I didn't think about. And it can help you get kind of a map. It's a mapping tool in many ways. It just helps you see lots of considerations that you should be planning for.
So like it helps you like outline your research and like hone in on like your research question and things of that nature.
Yeah, and you can even see from the screenshot, the different sections of it, like it goes over like the process of defining a topic. It gives some tips and strategies for that. Just like you said, figuring out your research question, your topic. And then it talks about some steps for, looking at the literature, doing your literature search, etc. So it doesn't like do it for you, but it gives some tips and strategies and kind of gives you an outline.
It's pretty cool.
And it's not specific to a discipline or anything, so it's not as narrowly focused as what you're doing within your field, but it kind of gives you a broad look at what it looks like, primarily I think for social sciences, humanities, I would say.
Okay. Does it also work for like technology and like business?
I would think it would, yeah. Yeah.
It's just like a general like tool. So it's like, yeah, like it just gives you general information on like different steps. I can see it being useful.
That's pretty cool.
That's just a piece of the database as a whole, though, that project planner tool. If you are, say, exploring using a new research methodology for you, doing some sort of qualitative research or quantitative research that you haven't done before, it gives you like case study examples, videos about how to conduct that kind of research. So it can help with like specific aspects of research as well. The project planner tool is probably the broadest brushstrokes of the
whole database.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we've had a couple of questions, but we can take a pause for any other questions, or if there's anything anybody wants to add in chat or unmute.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might not be able to do this now, but could you give an example of the Zotero? Because you mentioned Zotero. I think you went by a slide that talked about Zotero, and you talked about how you can use it to cite inside of your like papers. So my question is like, can you use it for a specific citation type like IEEE, or is it just APA?
Zotero has a large range, and it absolutely includes IEEE.
Okay.
So there's a setting function.
Okay. Maybe I haven't found that one.
Yeah, again, we can or maybe even after the workshop, I can come take a look. Yes, so most citation generators, this is true for EndNote, Web, and for Zotero, for example, usually have hundreds of citation formats, and definitely the standards. So APA, MLA, IEEE will be there.
Thank you. Yeah,
Good question.
Yeah, any other questions?
interesting.
Oh, here we go. One caution.
Yes,
Oh,
great point.
Yeah, great point. So thank you, Ahmad, who said one caution is that citation generation are not 100% accurate. They help manage citations. Yes, I always mention that when you insert a citation that you have in your citation management tool, when you insert it in your document, you want to do a quick look at it.
Yeah.
For instance, APA style, the capitalization is kind of strange. It has a very specific format for capitalization. Yes, that's exactly the example. Yes, that's in chat now. It often gets those wrong, that wrong, both in Zotero and EndNote too. So,
And really any tool. Yeah.
yes,
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
Aman. Thank you.
okay.
We're going to talk a little bit about applying some of these organizational strategies in search, or at least using some search tools that can help with organization. And again, these are just, this is not totally comprehensive. These are just kind of an overview of what we have available in our UMBC library, OneSearch, and a few other databases that we subscribe to. I will say I put this slide in because this might be just the most fundamental thing to do as you're using the library resources. Signing in is key. It allows you to access the full text, first of all. It also gives you access to request items or put on hold different items. It definitely expands out the results and what's available to you if you sign in. And finally, signing in does allow access to a suite of organizational resources and tools. So for example, once you've signed in, you'll notice a little thumbtack icon that becomes available. You can save your whole search, like your actual search string, and it will include all the results that come with it. And then you can also save individual items that come up in the search. So if there's an article that I want to remember, I can click on the thumbtack for that item and save it to my folder. So let's say you want to access something you've saved from the past. You can go up to the very top, that first arrow on the slide up at the top here. It's the top right of the page, has the thumbtack, and that is where you can click to access your folder system. So I highly recommend this. I think it's a really nice way to be able to, an easy, quick way to save results as you're going through your searches and to get back to them. Oh, I will mention that is what we have in the UMBC Library OneSearch. It's kind of our main search system that we all use. That includes most of our databases. We have over 400 individual databases, all different disciplines. So that's kind of a comprehensive way of saving those results. However, you may find that your research needs take you into just one database, one specific discipline database. For example, if you're doing education research, you might just want to search in ERIC, which is one database just devoted to education research. And in that case, often these individual databases have a place where you can make an account, and then you can also save them in a folder within that specific database. So that would be separate from our OneSearch. It would be an additional account that you make. But if you're doing a lot of searches in that single database, that's a way to also save those searches.
Like EBSCO.
Yes, like any database from EBSCO, exactly. There's also the ProQuest databases.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, how long does the search string stay in there? Like, when does it delete itself?
That was a great question. I was going back and I was noticing that when I saved a search query, I'll demonstrate in a second. We just started this new platform, I think a year ago,
Yeah, year and a half.
year and a half ago, I had all of those searches and I definitely had all the individual items I had saved.
Okay, awesome.
Um,
That's good to know.
So but again, that's something we could probably find out, how long that goes. So far, the history of the system.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So another tool, is the personalization feature. This shows up on the top bar. It's a purple, text. It says personalize your research. In a nutshell, it's a way that you can have a little more control over the relevancy ranking. So for example, I mentioned that the one search, just our basic search, includes over 400 databases. They're all different disciplines. We have databases in STEM, engineering, social sciences, humanities, etc. But let's say that you were doing a very narrow project, obviously your own discipline. If you personalize your research, you're telling the system to prioritize articles from those disciplines. So this is a screenshot from mine. I've prioritized the arts and humanities more broadly and library and information studies. I'm the humanities librarian, so that's something that makes sense for me. I find that I work with students doing a range of interdisciplinary topics, however, so sometimes I will take off that personal feature and just get the results as anyone will see them. So you can turn it on and you can turn it off. You can kind of edit your preferences as you have different projects, but it is a tool available to you.
How do you get to that?
Good question. It's on the main search interface. I will do a demo after one other slide, and then I'll share that.
And Brianna's added to chat the distinction in one search between search history and a saved searches. So she's saying that the general search history, which you don't have to activate, it just kind of, I believe, just kind of collects that. It doesn't stick around. It clears every day at midnight. But that's different than actively saving a search, which is that thumbtack. It's that save query option that shows up on the screen, and Erin can show that.
Yeah, that's a great distinction, Brianna. So the system just keeps a record of what you search throughout the day. And yes, that is cleared every night at midnight. However, if you specifically told it to save that query, it will hang around at least for that year and a half so far and
Yeah,
counting.
I think it's
Yeah.
supposed to be
Kind of
permanent-ish
yes.
in the course of your studies. Let's hope.
I will share that. I will show that as well.
Yeah.
One more slide. So again, as you're performing these searches, you may be curious, and one of the advanced search strategies, research strategies, is to pay attention to the connections and the relationships between articles. So if you have found a really relevant article, you can look at the reference list and see who that author is citing. There's also this nice tool, and there's an arrow pointing to it in the screenshot, of a little tree branch with arrows arcing up and going down, these little arrows, and it's showing the citation flow. So you can actually click on those and you can see which works the author has cited. So works that have already been written that they're citing in their article, but also going the other way, going forward, who has since written articles that have cited this article that you're now reading. So you can kind of see the citations behind and ahead. And it's a nice way to see what other researchers are doing work in similar fields, similar areas, similar topics. That is the feature in OneSearch at UMBC, but I do also have a screenshot from Web of Science, which has a similar feature where you can see what has been cited and also where is this article you're looking at, where is it also being cited? So that's a nice feature before and after.
So that's not that's like in a specific database. It's not in the OneSearch, right?
So good question. The screenshot to the left, the long skinny one, the little arrows that are red, that is how that shows up in the OneSearch. So yes, it is a feature in OneSearch, but not for every single article. It really depends.
Oh.
So if you see it, you can access it. If it's not there, it just means it's not available. So I've noticed that it's available for a lot of articles. It's not available for books or ebooks generally.
It's only like articles, like news articles.
Usually like peer-reviewed articles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the screenshot on the right is for a specific database. It's the Web of Science database.
I don't see that. Mine looks different.
Okay, we'll do a search right now, actually. And yes, there is some comments in the chat. Thank you, Mari. Yes, and Brianna, absolutely. There's some outside softwares you can use like Research Rabbit that shows kind of the relationship web. And I think it shows you a visual kind of how it's connecting to different topics. So that can be a nice feature. That's great. Thank you, Brianna and Mari. All right, so I've shown a lot of screenshots. Let's actually take a look at what this looks like. So let's say you are in the OneSearch. This is the main library homepage. You can Google UMBC Library. It's the main website here. You can perform your search, whatever you're looking at. Say I'm looking at nutrition literacy in K through 12 education. I could change that search, but we're just gonna do a basic search here. And we'll wait for that to load. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do is sign in. That is the most important thing. It will get you access to more of the results.
That's probably why I didn't see anything.
Oh yeah, that will actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So yes, without signing in, you won't have those tools
Gotcha.
because those are the personalized tools that are for your search individually.
Makes sense.
And that's how it connects to your account. So the fact that we have signed in, it's Katie's account that we're using. And so you can see her name on the top right for that. Now the tools to use is that little thumbtack. And by clicking the thumbtack specifically, that will save your query. And whenever I've done that, it saves it. So if I don't click anything, if I just search and change my search, I don't know, is it okay if I click on that to show?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually let's take a look. So if we were going into the save query, if I click this, it means it's gonna save the terms that I searched. It's gonna save anything I did to adjust my search. So if I select peer-reviewed journals and apply, it will also save that. And then it will save the list of 938 results. So let's do that. I'm gonna save it. It says this search query was saved to your favorites. I'll go ahead and dismiss that. At the top is how I would access that. So I can click on my folder system here. So this is actually what Brianna kind of pointed out. There are individual saved records. You can save individual items and you can create folders here. So that's one thing you can do. You can select it and you can create a new folder by adding a label at the top. So that's an option for you. You can also look at what you've saved. This is your saved queries. And these are saved all the way through. You can see dates back earlier this spring. And you can see that it saved my exact terms and then it also saved my limiter, my peer-reviewed journal selection there. The thing that gets cleared every midnight is anything that I haven't deliberately saved. So it's just the searches that happened that day, if that makes sense. And that gets wiped every day.
The search history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just your, yeah. It's anything you didn't require it to save. Sorry, I should have gone back. Let's just quickly do, I do want to demonstrate the personalization feature as well. So right now it's not personalized, but if you were to select that, it would give you a screen that you can edit. It says edit disciplines and you can make some selections. Now, those are kind of the default that Katie has saved. And she can decide, just as you can decide, whether or not you want it to be activated in any given search that you do. So I have my saved templates for the arts and humanities, but I don't always activate it, if that makes sense. And then the final thing that I mentioned was the citation tracking. So in OneSearch, it looks like this little red arrow, and it doesn't have it for everything. In case, so if, for example, this will show you the sources that this author has cited, that these authors have cited. You can click that and you can see the 6 things that the authors cited. However, let's see, if I go further down, there are sometimes results that also show who has cited that study as well, and that would be the up arrow.
And in either case, it's just the sources that are indexed in our OneSearch, so not everything.
That's
So
right.
even within
Yes.
like a particular article's bibliography, not every source may be in our OneSearch, so
Yeah.
clicking through those arrows is giving you some of them,
Yes.
potentially not all of them.
So you're saying like they're not all cited by in this software? Like if I went to Google Scholar, it could be different, like.
So you would always be able to see, like if you opened up the article, you would always be able to see all of the sources listed in their bibliography,
Mhm.
right? What this is letting you do is open up and see the full text of the ones that are actually part of our OneSearch.
Database.
Yeah, and Google Scholar is probably similar. It's not everything. You can trace some of those back and forth, but it's not, they don't necessarily contain everything in Google Scholar. I mean, it's probably bigger than our OneSearch, but they wouldn't necessarily contain everything. But you could track some of those others down individually.
Okay.
And then the reverse feature is sources that have cited the article, right? So then it's looking forward,
Mm-hmm.
sources that have come afterwards and are citing that particular.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. So like those sources,
Mhm.
they're all the sources that are cited by, or is it just the ones that are in the database?
Just the ones in the database.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, so there may be other articles
That have
and
cited
sites that have
Interesting.
cited it, yeah. So
Interesting.
it's giving you kind of some of them.
I will also just say, if you want the most expanded search, you would just select results beyond USMAI. That will allow you to select things that we might have the full text for. We don't have it, but we can access it through interlibrary loan. So feel free to click that if you would like the most expanded version of your search. And we may not have the full text immediately, but we can get it to you. Usually for PDFs of articles within that same day. So it is worth accessing that interlibrary loan option.
And then also that shows the interlibrary requests, the ones that you can request.
Yeah, what will happen is you'll just see the results kind of in the main page. But then if there's something that says no online access, there will be a link if you've signed in to request through interlibrary loan, and it will prompt you to do that. Just checking chat or asking if there are questions with that brief demo. It's worth playing around and just seeing some of your options once you've signed in. Excellent, and it looks like so far no questions, but feel free to add anything at any point.
But can you go back just for a second?
Yeah, would you like the slide or the
The,
website?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wonder, just like in addition for the future, it might be cool if they had like, you know how the Zotero connector is on the side of the, like,
Yeah.
whatever article you're on, it would be cool if like, kind of like how you can see they're cited by or the references, there's like a tab where it just says like Zotero. Because I know you can click the article and get to it, but sometimes you don't need to click
Yeah.
that
yeah,
far
yeah.
to get to know that you want to use that, but.
Yeah, so one thing, there is a toolbar that allows you to like export,
Okay.
but honestly for Zotero, I recommend people use the browser plugin.
Yeah, I have
It kind of
that.
follows along.
I have that. It'd be even more convenient if it was.
Yeah, I like your thinking. It's like, that's a great recommendation.
Mhm.
Thinking about even greater usability. Absolutely, I agree.
If you click the three dots at the end of the list of tools. Oh, to get to, yeah, it pops up that.
Perfect. Thank you, Brianna. Yes, so if you have those citation tools, you can email yourself the article. You can get the permanent link. You can cite it. That's an option too. It gives you just the 4 main citation styles. It does not have IEEE, sadly. But you can use Zotero for that. And then there's the 3 dots that expand out those if you're using a smaller window. Yeah. All right. Great. Thanks, Brianna. All right. So we talked a little bit about some of those tools. You can also think about your search strategy a little more broadly, and it's helpful to keep track because then you have a record of what you have searched. It's easy to get caught up in a search and then come back to your work the next day and forget exactly what terms you were using or exactly which databases you looked in. You can always put in Library One search, and that's kind of a comprehensive search of most of our databases, or you can do a search in individual databases that you've selected. People have used, these are just a couple examples online. There's links to that if you want to see those pages. Some of those links will have templates that you can download and use. But again, kind of the basic idea is that you're documenting the databases you've searched in, the search terms you're using, any hits or results. You can also document things like the main point of the article, if that's helpful. Just write one sentence or a couple bullet points. People use templates using a table system in Google Docs, or you can use like a spreadsheet as well. And then there's just one slide on this, but this is a whole topic in and of itself. So something to think about. This kind of goes back to the overall research plan that Katie was talking about. So in a nutshell, data management just encompasses what you need to do and think about as you're collecting, organizing, describing, sharing, and preserving your data. And some grants and some publications or funding bodies require you to have some sort of data management plan. So there are some links with some different guides. There's also some tools like the DMP tool that will help you draft a data management plan. It kind of talks through the different components of a management plan. And so I recommend accessing the quick start guide. It kind of gives you some direction for that. FAIR guiding principles also kind of talks through just some basics about what to think about as you are preserving, collecting your data in a way that's ethical. Kind of goes through some of those ethics as well.
You said the DMP tool is what you can use to draft a data management plan?
Yes, so the quick start guide is probably where I'd recommend that you start, and there's a link in the chat that will be shared out with our slides and recording. But the DMP tool helps researchers think through what they need to include in a plan. I think it also allows you to look up if you have a certain funding agency or grant to see what's required. And then it shows screenshots about how to actually use the tool. It's an open software that's available to anyone.
That's really cool.
So we'll pause here if there are any questions.
Thanks for adding those links, Brianna.
Oh, wow, you have an email for this. But the DMP tool, interesting.
Right.
Okay. All right. So just to touch on note taking a little bit, I think it's helpful to really think about how you work best, how you've worked best in the past, what your kind of past strategies have been, as well as your anticipated needs for your specific project. Think about the types of sources that you'll be using, as well as any data or other evidence that you'll be collecting and analyzing. Think about if you already take notes digitally, or if you tend to use handwritten tools or handwritten notes that you'll digitize later. Are there some tools that you already use to do this? Or some tools that you're using that might have an additional component that allow you to add research notes that you haven't used yet? So this is just a few types of note-taking tools that are available. You may not need any of these. It's just something to think about. So there's a range of note-taking tools out there. Many of them have sort of a freemium model, price model, where you can get some basic functions available for free, and then more functionality at a cost. If you take handwritten notes, maybe look at tools like GoodNotes that digitize and OCR your notes for you, making them searchable. browser extensions like, and I'm not sure how to pronounce if it's Digo
Oh,
or
yeah, I don't know.
Vigo.
Yeah.
And Hypothesis allow you to add notes to PDFs and web pages and organize all of your files into folders. And then most citation management tools, including Zotero and EndNote Online, include fields for each record that you have. So each source that you have in your account will include a research notes field, in addition to sometimes some other types of fields that you can add your text as just a place to maybe keep some of your notes as well.
So you're saying like if we upload an article or like a source to like Evernote, within Evernote we can also like write notes on the text.
Yes, that is true with Evernote.
Yeah.
Which is a nice feature.
Mhm.
Zotero, by the way, also has that feature.
That's like another note taking. Is Zotero more so for citations, or can you also use that for note taking?
That's a great question. Overall, it's like a citation management tool. So it does allow for some note taking, although some of these tools may be slightly more robust. So you can kind of debate if you just want to use the one tool for both, or also use some of these specific note taking tools.
Okay. That's you.
Yeah, so we'd love to actually just open up the doc. Hopefully people were able to add to it. We'd love to just share if there's resources. Perfect, this is great. So we can kind of talk through just briefly, just mention the links that are here. Ultimately, we will include this in the message we send out that will have our slides. It will also have the recording from today, and we'll include this link to anyone who's registered or attended today as well. I think we'll just take the next couple minutes just to look through. I think it's nice to see what people have added. Again, feel free to add beyond today. This will be available to you and sent out as this Google Doc. So feel free to use it. This is great. Yeah. So again, as we've talked, some people have mentioned that someone uses a spreadsheet and then has been using Zotero. A lot of Zotero, actually. There's someone who's called out EndNote Online, so that's kind of fun to see what you've used. There's some good information here about, again, just kind of basic tools. I think the OneNote, OneDrive, Google extension is a great feature because then you can actually use your citation within your browsers. I've never heard of Notion, so I'm excited about that. Looks like it helps with Gantt charts, planning generally. That sounds great. So thanks for adding that. Again, feel free to unmute if you'd like to talk more about these, because I don't know all of these, which is exciting.
Yeah, and there's a question in chat, but maybe
Yeah.
we can, is there any questions anyone has about what's in the document, or anything they'd like to expand on that they've added to the document? Brianna's saying that Notion is great and has a ton of options. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Yeah,
Nice.
Notion is very customizable. So it can be a little intimidating at first. And then we do have a question here about data management.
Yeah. let's go there.
Do you guys have any suggestions for data backup platforms? I use Box right now, but I believe there's a limit on how much you can put on there. I think I would Dropbox. Okay, so Dropbox is an option. That's great. Let's add that to
Yeah, good idea.
that here.
I'm trying to think of what UMBC provides for. It'd be interesting to see with we're Google Campus, so there is a certain amount of Google Drive storage on our private UMBC Google Drive, so you can access that. There.
I feel like Michelle, there is a person in the library who can provide some support on that, Michelle Flinchbaugh.
That's right.
I'm gonna pull up her guide and see if she's got some additional.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Katie, this is Brianna. I just dropped into the chat the
Oh,
link to
great.
Michelle's guide on data management.
Okay. Okay. yeah, she's.
Yeah.
She's got a section on. Yeah, because to do it on campus, so they're saying Box, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive as options. And some other, my understanding is that for the larger data storage options, you can work with DoIT to sort of request that.
Additional storage.
Yeah.
And they'll work with you generally. Yeah.
Okay.
How do we add that to the? I'll just add the link into the document too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This will be UMBC specific. Just add a link there. Great question. Oh, super. So Brent has also added that UMBC has a subscription to Lab Archives. Yes, which does allow for some data collection and documentation. That's great. So yeah, hopefully you'll get your needs met through Microsoft, Google Drive, Dropbox, etc. That's great.
What was the other service that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so this was one that was added. It's Lab Archives. And we'll make, in fact, I'll just add that to the doc right now. And it says, Brianna mentioned that UMBC has a subscription to that. Yes, and to confirm, so yeah, so if you have a large data storage need, again, like terabytes of data, massive amounts of data, talk to DoIT. So as a graduate student, they really are going to prioritize the needs of researchers on campus, graduate students, faculty. So you can always talk to them and consult with them and see if there can be a solution for your particular need.
Yeah, and just saying that there, you can submit a ticket actually for that.
That's if you have too much research.
Yeah, if you are collecting lots of video, probably, right? Like
Mhm.
massive amount of file systems. Yeah, that probably would do it.
Mary is saying we use large TIFF files
Yes.
for research.
Great question. So I think DoIT's model is they try to see what they can provide without additional payment. So I would just submit an RT and work with them to find a solution. There's a question about funding, if you need to pay for that storage.
Mhm.
Again, this is why I would go to DoIT because they're committed hopefully to trying to provide a solution that doesn't involve
Mhm.
extra payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, great comments, great question. Did we miss it? If anyone wants to share on the Google Doc too, there's some great notes about, there's some EndNote online users and recommending the Chrome extension, which is great. That's nice. Some people have said they've tried Zotero, Mendeley, sometimes EndNote. I would be curious to know your experience with all three, if anyone wants to unmute and share that. And then, yes, there is a nice software called Covidence for systematic reviews. That's if you're doing really advanced tracking of research literature. I don't believe UMBC has a subscription to that.
No, I think some of our participants today are affiliated with two campuses. So
that makes
I
sense.
think it's the University of Maryland, Baltimore campus.
Yep.
The programs that are affiliates there. So they're accessing it. That has definitely been a request to try to get access on our campus for our students and faculty. I don't know the status of that request at this point. That's done on a campus level inside the library.
Thank you for adding to the Google Doc and sharing in the chat. This is great.
So Zotero is easy. Mendeley has larger default.
Oh, yes, that's true. Storage.
Storage 20 gigabytes for free.
And you like
Yes.
EndNote for accuracy. Nice. That's great. Brianna has mentioned Rayon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that can be helpful for systematic reviews.
Yeah, that's a
That's a free
Open source,
open
yeah.
source software, and there's a link to that. We can add that to the Google Doc as well. So again, those are for kind of really robust literature review projects, systematic reviews. Oh, very nice. So it looks like Aman has used Covidence before. It's nice to see what people have used. Yes, there are some other campuses like QMB that does have access to Covidence. Yes.
We don't have access. to
Not
Google.
right now, not the general UMBC population. There, as Katie mentioned, there's discussions at high levels on campus. I don't know where that stands. Yeah, good question. All right. So we just wanted to share our contact information. We also want to mention that there is a graduate students resources guide that gives a lot of links and resources to research assistance. There's one on research methods, for example, lit reviews. So you feel free to check out that link. We also wanted to invite anyone to take a survey and just give us feedback. This is the first time that we've done this workshop in particular on managing and organizing research. And we're also kind of wanting to get feedback on graduate student workshops in general. So we would love anything you have to share. We read that feedback and try to incorporate it into other iterations that we do in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll follow up with everybody with the recording, the slides, the documents, the shared document. And I think that's it. Any questions as we wrap up? Questions, comments?
Just realizing that there was a question about the recordings, past recordings of workshops. So I'll just quickly show that if we mentioned that as well. So if you're on the homepage, you can go to Research Help and Workshops. So it's that first Research Help click and then the workshop. If you click on workshops, it will list what's available coming up, which this is actually our last workshop for the semester. But above there's a link that says you can view the previously recorded workshops, and it will take you to our YouTube channel. And that's for the library reference.
That's really cool.
So if you're curious about Zotero, there's that link and notes there too. Anything that's been shared this semester.
So do y'all have any tips as far as like the method as far as like taking notes on certain subjects? Like let's say if I have a book or I have an article and I'm looking for certain information, like let's say
I did a workshop on
note taking. Yeah.
I sent it to you. It's really good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, that's great. It sounds like there's a good resource. You can also pop it into the Google Doc for people too.
Yeah.
That pretty much answered my question. Like I was just trying to figure out what's the best approach as far as like taking notes on like certain topics and resources, like within the citation management system or within like the note-taking system, like EndNote or GoodNotes. What's the best approach as far as annotating and dissecting an article for like notes and stuff?
It's such a good question.
It's a great question.
It is, I think, very specific to a person and
Mhm.
how they do it.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this question. What do you tend to do?
I like to like organize things by like topic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like back in like undergrad, I would like have an article and like let's say if I have a 10-page paper on like innovations in like Africa or something like that, I would like find the sources of those and like probably like organize them in accordance to like what the main idea is. Like let's say if my main idea is current innovations that's going on, I probably have some articles listed under that topic if I'm breaking it down. And then underneath that topic, I would write down like, oh, what topics, like the subtopics of that article and break it down and take notes that way. If
Mhm.
that makes sense.
That sounds like a really good system.
It's a good approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it depends on the types of sources that you're using for that. And so some people I think like to do like a very thorough review of something before they take
Yeah,
notes.
very
I
detailed.
take notes as I go along.
Mhm.
And then maybe try to set aside a little time to review the notes and clean them up a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm very visual, so I try to I try to sort of visualize content. I was really way back in the day, like note cards were really helpful for me for
Mhm.
just like kind of, but there are now digital tools that you can do some of that too.
Like Miro or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's kind of thinking about the range of things you'll be dealing with for the project. And then setting up a little bit of a strategy, but being flexible with how you go along. And any given day, you may note take a little differently
Mhm.
than you might,
Yeah.
you know.
Or any project could be
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
depending on ultimately what you need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take notes on.
It depends on the needs pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it can be kind of tedious. So
Oh,
I
yes.
would like to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like detailed, but that process is definitely tedious. So
Oh, yeah.
anything I could do to like shorthand it and make it more convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you could do is this idea of a note-taking template for yourself. So you have a couple categories that you just know you're gonna
Mhm.
emphasize.
Mhm.
I found that helpful if I'm trying to read a lot of articles at
Mhm.
once, that I just take note of like the core thesis in each, or I even make note of how I might use it for my project.
Mhm.
So I'm not taking notes on the entire article, but I'm taking notes
That
on
makes
the
purpose.
core, yes,
Mhm.
and how I need it. But again, that's unique to everyone and every
Mhm.
project. But yeah,
That's a
it's
cool
easy to
way
get overwhelmed. I
Yeah.
totally feel that.
I can imagine reading all of those sources and stuff. But like going through, it's also good to like have a bird's eye view and just like, okay,
Yes.
this is the thesis for this article.
Yes.
This is the subtopics for this article. This is the concept I'm trying to address. How does these subtopics of this broad thesis address that? Let me look into it further now, and then probably take more detailed notes from there.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like triage a little bit.
Yeah.
And Christine, I think you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
I was just gonna comment,
Yes.
similar to what Aaron was saying. Yeah, for me, I got a spreadsheet and then I had to have the categories laid out because I'm not gonna have time to go back and read the article and reread to comprehend certain things that I need to pull from it. So like, yeah, and even things for citations, like I make sure I have the publication source, the year, these categories are important when I want to dissect a little more definitions, quote.
Yeah.
I put all these categories and I just kind of plop it in as I read the article or just skim the article and stuff. So that's what I found to be helpful and again, it's per project, but having that laid out before you even start reading, it's like been very beneficial.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
like a spreadsheet of like the resource, like the title and stuff like that, or the citation for it, and then like another tab for like the notes on the
Yeah.
tab and stuff
And,
like
and
that.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think what Christine's saying is she's even trying to, and this is based on maybe your outline that you're starting with, your main themes would be
Mm-hmm, the
columns.
topics, yeah.
And then as she's going along, she's pulling content. So she doesn't have to go back.
Yeah, that's actually really smart too. Yeah.
Yeah.
it gives
Yeah,
you
I'm doing scholarly articles, methodology, what was the population, I'm digging in deep so I can
Yeah.
so I can track per article, like I can summarize it or like skim, okay, all these articles talked about this, all these articles talked about that at a deeper level. So yeah, you can get real deep with them columns. It just depends on what you need to know, what you need to pull from it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you're kind of creating your literature review as you go along and doing that.
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
like
literature.
getting your work done.
Two very
Yeah,
brief
two.
questions. One, have you helped a student with like a rapid review before?
What a rapid review
It's a type of literature review, but it's like you do it faster because of like you have to because something is like coming out soon. So for example, like I want to do a rapid review of like air quality regulation and wildfire smoke because like Congress budget is set, like the president sends in his budget the first week of February. So like I was hoping, and I'm reading all this literature on air quality and wildfire smoke. So I'm like, I might as well like make it a paper, but I was just wondering if you help students with like that because that's something I need help with or be interested in like doing in like a meeting. But I saw that you were like the music and the modeling, so I don't know if I can set up a meeting with you because I'm public policy.
Yeah, great question in general, actually. So we could actually add that to our doc. So each of us are subject librarians, including Brianna, who's in the chat, helping. And there's 6 of us, and we all have different subject areas.
Mhm.
So generally we meet with the departments or faculty or students in our like research
Sure, sure.
areas. So like you would meet with the public policy librarian,
Sure,
for
sure.
example. And I think, so there is, so again, like in our meetings, we try to address whatever needs you have, although sometimes we're not
turning
able to,
with you.
yeah, we're not all able to do maybe the complete systematic review, for example. We don't have the bandwidth to do that for any request that comes in.
Mhm.
But we can definitely meet with you and kind of talk about the parameters and talk about your search strategy and talk about maybe some databases or maybe even just setting up a preliminary plan for yourself.
Mhm.
That is definitely something that we can assist with.
Okay, so I should make an appointment with Jasmine for that.
That's right, yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Got it.
No, we also help with, if you teach a workshop on like a software tool or something like that,
Mhm.
like I definitely handle questions for Zotero,
Mhm.
or you could reach out to your subject librarian, either way.
Sure,
So
thank you so
that's
much.
how it crosses over.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone who has attended. Everything off the recording.
Want to walk?
Thank you very much.
Excited.
It's just nice.
Oh, definitely.